Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a deep dive into one of the absolute most fascinating, contradictory, and honestly enduring figures in Native American folklore, specifically within the Navajo or Diné tradition. We're talking about Coyote. Now, if you think you know Coyote just as some scavenging desert animal or, a cartoon character dropping anvils, you are in for a profound surprise. In these oral traditions, Coyote is a sacred being. He's a creator, a hero, but simultaneously, a deeply flawed fool. So let's explore how one single figure can literally hold all of these identities at the exact same time.
What if the greatest teacher in the world was also the most foolish? Seriously, think about that for a second. It feels like a total paradox, doesn't it? We usually expect our wise figures to be perfect, untouchable, completely beyond making mistakes. But the stories of Coyote? They flip this entirely on its head. Coyote teaches us not by being perfect, but by being magnificently and sometimes catastrophically imperfect. Let's look at exactly how he earned this wild reputation.
Section 1. Coyote's Great Fire Heist.
Okay, let's dive right into this by starting with a story where Coyote acts as a genuine savior for humanity. Picture the first people. They are enduring bitterly cold winters, shivering, suffering, and completely without fire. The world is just a freezing, unforgiving place, and survival is this daily painful struggle. And the precious flames? They're being aggressively hoarded. High atop a treacherous mountain live the fire beings, sometimes referred to as the fire god, Hajjajjijin. They keep the fire entirely to themselves, just completely indifferent to the suffering of the first people freezing down below. Well, seeing this injustice, Coyote decides to step up. He devises this daring heist to steal the fire from Hajjajjijin. But Coyote is smart enough to know that stealing fire from a mountain fortress, that is not a one-man job.
So he organizes a brilliant, fast-paced relay race, bringing in the wider animal community. Coyote sneaks into the fire being's camp, waits for the absolute perfect moment, snatches a burning brand, and just takes off running. Instantly, the enraged fire beings are in hot pursuit. But Coyote has positioned his team perfectly along the mountain path. Right before the fire beings can catch him, he passes the fire to Squirrel. Squirrel sprints, hands it off to Chipmunk. Chipmunk dashes down the mountain and tosses it to Frog, who makes a wild escape with the final glowing embers, successfully delivering the life-saving fire to the first people.
And this brilliantly illustrates how these ancient stories explain the natural world around us. Because listen, this wasn't a clean getaway, and the animals made massive physical sacrifices during this terrifying chase. Coyote's tail was scorched by the flames, which, you guessed it, is why modern coyotes have black or white-tipped tails. Chipmunk was nearly caught, and the fire being's sharp claws left permanent stripes down his back. Squirrel held the fire so close that the intense heat curled his tail forever. And Frog? Well, in the frantic final escape, Frog lost his tail entirely. It really is a beautiful story of community, sacrifice, and cleverness.
Section 2. The complex trickster figure.
Now, if the story ended right there with the fire heist, we'd probably view Coyote purely as a classic, untarnished hero. But in Navajo cosmology, this holy person known as Mai is infinitely more complex. He doesn't just stay neatly in the hero box. He is what folklorists and mythologists call a trickster. So what's a trickster? It's a complex mythological figure representing the unpredictable boundary between order and chaos. Tricksters are not bound by normal rules. They exist in that messy gray area of life. They aren't entirely good, but they aren't entirely evil either, and their actions are completely unpredictable. They disrupt the status quo, sometimes for the better, and sometimes, just for the thrill of the disruption.
This is the true dual nature of Mai. On one hand, he's a sacred creator and a wise advisor. He's an ancient being, present at the very creation of the world, whose interference literally shaped the cosmos. But on the other hand, he's a foolish troublemaker and, at times, a straight-up destroyer. He acts out of pure vanity, intense greed, or sheer impatience. It's fascinating because he is divine, yet he displays the absolute most base, embarrassing traits of humanity.
Section 3. Shaping the Cosmos and Death.
Coyote's chaotic energy didn't just result in harmless little pranks. His earthly manipulations and massive cosmic blunders had permanent consequences for all of us. Let's look at an earthly trick first, one driven by pure greed. Coyote is hungry and sees that Bobcat has some delicious corn. Instead of asking for it or, finding his own, he decides to manipulate Bobcat. He approaches him and promises to teach him magic that will make him run incredibly fast. The secret, Coyote lies, is to aggressively bob your head side to side while sprinting. Bobcat, really wanting this magic speed, takes off running, frantically throwing his head left and right. Of course, he immediately becomes terribly dizzy, loses his balance, and crashes.
And while poor Bobcat is incapacitated, Coyote just casually strolls over and steals the corn. It's petty, it's mean, and it really shows his incredibly manipulative side.
But his flaws aren't just limited to stealing corn. Oh no, they scale up to a literal cosmic level. Imagine this. The first people and the holy people were carefully and deliberately placing each star in the night sky. They were creating specific patterns meant to serve as laws and guides for humanity. And Coyote was there. But he grew super impatient with how slowly this meticulous work was going. So what does he do? He simply grabs the bag of stars and violently flings them across the sky, scattering them into the random, messy constellations we see today. And in other stories, his chaotic actions, like stealing the children of the water monster, caused massive, devastating floods in earlier worlds, literally forcing everyone to flee.
But perhaps his absolute most profound act occurs in the Diné Bahane, the Navajo emergence myth. After the people survived those floods and moved upward to the current fourth world, they faced a massive existential question. Should death exist, or should people live forever? The people were totally uncertain, so they turned to Coyote for the answer. Coyote took a heavy stone, walked right up to the edge of a lake, and tossed it into the water. He declared, "If the stone sinks, death will be permanent." And of course, the heavy stone sank straight to the bottom of the lake. In that single fleeting moment, Coyote permanently established death as an inescapable part of the human experience. He didn't deliberate, he didn't form a committee, he just acted. And in doing so, he cemented mortality for all living things.
Section 4. A Mirror for Humanity.
This brings us to a really profound philosophical conclusion. Why on earth would a culture revere a holy person who is deeply flawed, who steals, who ruins the constellations, and who just casually introduces death to the world? Well, it comes down to what his stories are actually meant to achieve. So the crucial point is that Coyote is a mirror for humanity. These aren't just entertaining fables, they are vital instructions for living. By acting out all the things we shouldn't do, by being relentlessly greedy, impatient, and manipulative, Coyote takes on the burden of demonstrating the harsh consequences of those actions. He experiences the pain, the crashes, and the failures, so we don't have to. Through his relentless chaos, he teaches us the absolute necessity of balance, patience, and community cooperation. We basically learn how to build a harmonious world by watching him constantly tear it apart.
Which leaves us with this final thought. We all have a bit of that unpredictable, chaotic energy inside us, don't we? We all make foolish mistakes, act out of impatience, or let our egos get the better of us. But if Coyote shows us anything, it's that those flaws are a vital part of the human experience. So, if our mistakes are indeed our greatest teachers, what can your inner trickster teach you today? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.